Hello, welcome back to More Fun Fixing It. I'm Lee and I'm here today with Henry's Amiga 600, which we saw in an episode a couple of weeks ago. So the things that I need to do, first of all, thank you for your comments in the previous video. There's lots of good ideas there, and I think everybody enjoyed watching this unfold. There are a few things that we need to go over first. The plan of action is to rebuild this side of the circuit over here as it is. I don't need to do too much else. These pads around U15 that you saw that were floating around under the microscope, I'm going to use what I'm going to call the Glen method, and I'm going to glue the chip down and then solder it to the pads and then make sure that all of the signals go where they're supposed to. Any traces that go underneath this chip, I'm going to make sure that they're intact first before I go any further so that they can be repaired. Everything else can just be fixed. I've got all of the parts that I need, all of these transistors and everything. I've been told, Peter told me about these JFETs are very difficult to get, but there is an equivalent that you can get. So I might replace those with new ones if I need to, but that should be fairly straightforward, just mostly putting stuff back and replacing the ones that I want to actually replace, like the transistors and these passives over here. I've got all of that. This cap here has no pads at all, so I'm not sure what to do with that yet. This one has one pad. That should be easy, so I can mount it to this one, but I might need to maybe glue a cap there and then run bodge wires off of it. That one's easy. I can just put that one back. That's not that doesn't need any attention. Over here, this chip here is a concern, but it should be okay, and all of the pads are there for that chip, so that will just need cleaning up. These filters here are definitely a concern because they were in the firing line. That if they need to be replaced, I mean, I don't think you can buy these anymore, but if they need to be replaced, they can actually be bypassed. So that's a possibility. So I could change this chip for a different type. I've had people telling me things on the Retro Hardware Discord that I've struggled to absorb everything, but there we go. These filter caps, these filter caps over here, they will be replaced. The through-hole caps will be replaced. And then all of these ones across here, I think I don't need to replace. I'm going to remove this modulator altogether. Henry doesn't want it there, so maybe he'll put an RGB to HDMI in its place. And then there's a few caps around here with just one pad, so I should be able to bodge those in and replace the transistors. That should be done. The other side, in this area, there's a cap missing down here that I took out in the first episode, which was hanging off, and it's missing one pad. That's a 6800 picofarad. If you look on PCB Explorer, C332, this one, which, yeah, 6800 picofarad. And I don't have any of those. That's the only thing I'm missing actually in that package, but I've got ceramic disc caps. I can just bodge one of those in there, and it's only got one pad, so I can run the other leg over to where the trace goes through via. There's still some schmutz around this area here and around this area here, and there's still some contamination in this area and in this area. So what I'm going to do is give it an ultrasonic bath, but I'm going to try something new. Again, on recommendation from my wonderful friends on the Retro Hardware Discord, I bought some of this. I just got the 5 kilos of it because you never know when you need citric acid. I might want to make some bath bombs. But yeah, this should be enough to clean that. So I'm going to put that in the ultrasonic cleaner instead of, I know some people use isopropyl alcohol, which is quite dangerous. And some people use PCB flux cleaning solutions and things, which are really expensive. Apparently this is not going to be quite as good as that, but it's going to be plenty good enough. I'll have to neutralize the acidity of that with some by bathing it in isopropyl alcohol, but that should clean this motherboard up to pristine levels. I am actually just going to my ultrasonic cleaner is not big enough for this whole thing. I want to avoid getting this crystal in there. That one I'm not so worried about. That's easily replaced. So I will do this side and this side, And this bit isn't really dirty. I mean, there's a bit here, but that can just be cleaned up manually. And I don't think they leaked very much in this area. So when I do this around this audio connector and the keyboard connector, I am actually going to remove all of these just to clean underneath them. And as much as being able to get access to repair that floating pad that went walkabout there. The only other thing is the case. And it's very, very yellow. The back side of it also is a bit yellow. The base is all right. So this is definitely caused by being in a hot, sunny window maybe. I'm actually going to give this a good clean. I'm not going to remove all of the keycaps. I'm going to give it a good clean as well as I can from this, because it doesn't actually look too dirty. I'll clean it, and I'm just going to put it out in the sun because we've got brilliant sunshine at the moment. It's 30 degrees most days at this minute, and I am roasting. So I'm going to take advantage of that and put this out in the sun to do some sunbrighting. I have got some peroxide to do some immersion retrobrighting, but I know Henry's a fan of sunbrighting as well, and it's his machine, so let's sunbright it and see if we can get it back to a similar colour to the original, or just to that colour would be nice. Right, I better get on with it. Let's do some cleaning first. Before we get stuck into this project, I just want to take a moment to thank the sponsor of this video, PCB Way. If you've been working on electronics for any amount of time, you've probably already heard of PCB Way. They are the go-to service for high-quality PCB fabrication. Whether you've got a simple design or something more complex, they can turn it into a reality with incredible precision. But it doesn't stop there. They also offer full assembly services. That's right, you can get your boards made and assembled all in one place. No more worrying about sourcing components or finding assembly services elsewhere. PCB Way takes care of it from start to finish, ensuring everything is soldered and tested to perfection. The best part, they do it all with an incredibly fast turnaround time and at very competitive prices. So whether you're working on a small project or scaling up, PCB Way's got you covered from the first design to the final product. Want to get started on your own project? Head over to PCBWay.com for an instant quote and see just how easy it can be to bring your designs to life. Thanks again to PCB Way for sponsoring this video and supporting the retro tech community. Cheers! Yeah, be right. Retrobrighting update. So I've put these out in the sun to sunbright them, and you can see it has had an effect. It's definitely taken it down quite a few shades. It's very difficult to, because you know, if I'm moving this around in the light, you're not going to get the same exact shade that I showed earlier. There is controlled lighting in here. The temperature is the same as it was the last time you saw this. So it should give you a good idea, but like this bit, for instance here, if I put that up against that bit underneath, you can see, or like that, you can see that it's definitely way darker than it wants to be. The same with this, but it is better. It does look better. Actually, I think this is my Amiga. Oh no, this is a charity Amiga 600 that's going to be up for sale at some point soon. And you can see the difference in colour between these two. It's white. And these have been out for 3 days. I also put the keys out on a tray and I left them out on the grass. And I brought them in each night, except last night. And there's been a small disaster. Something in the middle of the night has come across the key tray in the garden and nicked 3 of the keys. And this wouldn't be so bad if it was just like a letter key or the number keys, because they're Amiga 500 compatible. And this one's not so bad, and the left bracket, this is the back arrow key and this is the left bracket key, wouldn't be so bad. But this one is the same as this one, this blank key, and I can't, unless I take one off of my Amiga 1200 or an Amiga 600 here, I can't easily replace them. I've got Amiga 500 keyboards, and this is the key that goes here, and I could sunbright this one or retrobright it in some way. You can see it's very dark. So I'd have to do something with that, but I have found a seller on eBay that's selling Amiga 600 keys, and I'm going to purchase all 3 of the missing ones. I'm pretty sure he's got, or they've got, the missing keys that I need. So that's not the end of the world. And coming on to, they will be different shades to the keyboard, but I'm going to do something a little bit different to get this back to the original. Ooh, just another key. Back to the original shade. I'm actually going to step it up a bit. I don't think sunbrighting is going to get us there in time. I think I'll probably run out of summer. So instead, I'm going to do it with peroxide, if I can find my peroxide. If not, I'll go and buy some. But normally there are 2 methods of using peroxide. Are cream, which you just put. 3 methods of retrobrighting with peroxide. The cream method I don't like so much. It does work, and I've done it in the past and it's fine, but it takes a lot of maintenance. You have to keep topping it up, and I can't rely on myself to do that and not make a mess of it. Another method is the immersion method, which you need loads of peroxide, especially for doing something as big as this, and that would be expensive, but it is a very good method. And the third method is the vapor method, vaporbrighting, as championed by the lovely Neil. And I think that what Neil does is puts peroxide in the bottom of the container that he's got the things in, and relies on the heat of the sun to evaporate that and create the mist, the fumes, the vapor. I couldn't think of the word that you need to of the hydrogen peroxide to create the effect. Now, I've done that in the past. I did it with something last year, and I found that with that much peroxide in there, there was a lot of vapor that ended up on the lid and then kept dripping down onto the things that I was vapor brighting. And that did actually cause a few problems with something. So I thought, I'm going to give this a go. This is a H2O humidifier, and it's basically something that you just put the liquid in there, put this in. There's a filter in this part here that's replaceable. Well, it's not a filter, it's a sponge, and the liquid goes into this end of it and gets sucked up into here. It's got a bit mouldy in there, and goes onto the plate at the top and is evaporated. So I'm going to stick neat hydrogen peroxide in there, run a USB cable in, and away we go. I'm just going to leave this in the container with these and the keys. I think that will work. But because these have been out in the sun for a couple of days, or a few days, they've actually got a bit of stuff that's fallen off of trees and birds on them. So I'm going to give them another wipe over and take all the keys back off. These are only on here temporarily. Take all these back off, put them in the bottom of the tub, and set this up in the garden again. It's lovely and sunny, so I'm hoping that this will just work in just today. I want it back to this shade, so I'm going to get on with that. It is working. I hold down this button. Whoa! I'll put that out in the garden. Who knows? I've just been going through the footage and I've found where the lost keys are. They're here. There's one there, one there, there. I've got these ones out just to show the difference in colour. The tub that I was using had handles in the end, which were just holes, and I'd filled it up a little bit too much. And in my infinite wisdom, I decided to take a jug of it out and just threw it on the garden. And there were 3 keys in it, and I didn't realise. I blamed the cat. I thought the cat had wandered off with them. We even checked the cat's bed to see if we could find them, or we thought a bird might have stolen them and put them in its nest. But it's cost me a £5 because I had to reorder, or I had to order some replacement ones, and now I've got to do some retrobrighting on these ones. But lesson learned: don't throw water away without checking what's in it first. Now I've got to retrobright these. I'm going to do them by themselves. I'll put that in the garden with some tin foil underneath it. and then come back later today. Let's have a look at the results of the ultrasonic bath and the final cleanup. So probably the worst area was around here near the modulator. These two here are fine. No problems around that bit because those are the ones that I took off. So they're all nice and solid. There's a through hole cap there that needs to be replaced. A little bit of solder still in that hole. These three caps here are to do with the modulator and they don't need to be replaced, so I don't need to worry about those. I do need to make sure that anything that goes through here is still connected where it needs to be, but I don't think there is anything that's very important. This trace here that comes up from this vial is all intact, and these traces, I've buzzed out all of these, and anything that's down in this area, I've buzzed out every single one of these pins on this chip to wherever it goes using PCB Explorer. Some of them go to the other side of the board, and just in case where these go down through the board, through these vias, I made sure that they're connected on both sides and everything is fine. There is nothing that I can see that's a problem here. Yeah, I need to replace that cap, I need to replace that cap. So, and that pad will need fixing to there. This transistor is fine, that can just be put back, and that one, or replaced with new ones, and that one. This cap and this cap will need to be replaced. I'll put that resistor back there and this 3-hole cap back here. But these three caps here can be replaced. I'm happy with these. I've measured these as well as I can. I don't really know how they work, but I've used some resistance measurements to check them against each other, and they all seem to be doing the same sort of things. So I'm happy to give these a chance. These are filter things, and they go through this chip here. If one of them doesn't work, there is a way to bypass them, so I won't need to worry about that too much. But yeah, this is not looking too bad. There's a big old gouge in the board there. Don't know where that came from. That's into the substrate. But yeah, that trace there is gone, so I'll just attach this cap to this via. This one here can be attached to here, and this one here goes to, I think it's here, but wherever it goes to, it won't be difficult to run a bodge, but everything else is intact on that bit. Over by the audio connectors, that one's a nice easy one to replace. The trace is right there. I can oh, and the via is right there. You can just see it in the dark. There's a via there. That pad there looks a bit loose, but I think might be a bit loose, but I think I can get them to attach to the cap, and I'll fix all of these down with some hot snot once they're in place. And then over onto, oh, there's one here. This is all fine. I'll need to just replace some of this solder mask around here. That's a bare trace there, so I'll make sure that that's covered up. But that's all fine as well. And then over here, which really is the worst bit, starting over here, these traces around here will need covering. These are all bare copper now, pretty much. The solder mask has been eaten, and around all of these are bare, so I'll have to paint all of this with solder mask. You can see it's coming off here, but bare copper there, bare copper under here. All of this needs painting and protecting. So you've got to be careful, because it could have the corrosive juice underneath the bad solder mask, in which case it needs to come off, because you don't want it to carry on eating the copper underneath. So that transistor there is just a straight swap for that one. Put these back, replace that electrolytic, put these back. Well, I've got new ones of these. We'll come on to this bit in a sec. These two JFETs, I've been told there is a replacement for them if I need it. So I'll put them back and see if they work. If they don't work, then I'll get the replacements. I think that Peter told me that the replacements aren't perfect, so I'd much rather stay with the originals if they work. But yeah, all of the solder mask will need sorting there. This cap is, I think, yeah, that's attached, but obviously this one isn't, but it goes to there. This one goes to this via, so I can run a bodge straight out of there for that one, and this trace here, I can't remember where it goes, but it's not difficult. I think it just is the same as this one. I think they're common, so I can run bodge wires from both of these for the to this via, and make sure I replace all of the solder mask here. Look at this. Fiberglass pen on this bit. There's quite a lot more damage there than I thought. It's a very, very mild fiberglass pen, this. But it's been in an ultrasonic, so there shouldn't be anything left underneath these chips. That, well, I did bathe it in citric acid and then soaked it with isopropyl alcohol and then washed it off with distilled water. So I think the first, oh yeah, and then we've got this mess here, which I'm just going to try to get the chip on there onto these pads as they are. First of all, I'll paint all of the bare traces in between, because this is just bare copper. Yeah, get all of that sealed off. The only trace I need to replace, or the only pads I need to replace, is this one, and this one, I think are the same. They're common. You can see the trace just coming out of there. So I just need to bodge those together, but the rest of them should be okay. But yeah, all of this needs to be covered in solder mask first, so I think that's probably the first thing to do. Oh, there was one thing that this was the only effect of, or the negative effect of a citric bath, was it made actually the nickel on these go this fusty white colour, but it just comes off with a bit of abrasion. So that's not a problem. You can see a bit here as well. I've already cleaned a bit there. But yeah, I'll give those a clean up later. Oh, look, there's a mark. This was the water line. Anyway, we'll sort that out later. Let's get some solder mask on here. Using the tip of a long bamboo skewer now, just to get in these very tight places. Going to paint across the back of these pads in the hope that this will anchor them down a little when I'm attaching the chip to them. Just like that. Right, and now I'm going to put that out in the sun and see what it does. It's pretty good to me so far. A bit messy, will do. Well, I hope you enjoyed that music. That was by my friend Marcus, who I've known since we were, well, I was 7, he was younger. Anyway, that's enough for this video. I'm going to have to leave it there because there's still quite a lot to do, and this video has got to the point where I think it's long enough, and any longer would probably drag on a bit. And it just gives me an excuse to make a third episode. Just before we wrap up though, I just wanted to talk about this thing. I had high hopes for this. I thought that this was going to be the answer to all of my prayers and was going to make this whole process so much easier. It didn't work. I don't know what's going on. I think it's just faulty, but it basically just didn't work. I was running it off of a power bank, so that might have had something to do with it. It might have needed a few more amps. Could be, but it's still got as much hydrogen peroxide in there as when I put it in the container. So I'm going to go back to an older method. I'm either going to do the immersion method, which not quite so keen on because of the drip problem, or I'm going to try the vapor bright method, just using a pool of hydrogen peroxide in the bottom of the container. Just got to find a container that's the right size, otherwise it just gets very wasteful. But the sun has gone in. Summer seems to have ended again here in the UK. It is a good 10 or more degrees cooler today than it has been, and it's been overcast. It rained like crazy this morning, but the good side of that is that it's now much more livable inside my workshop, where I was only able to work for an hour at a time. So yeah, upsides and downsides, but it does mean that the retrobrighting will be delayed. Another reason to make this into a third video, because I wouldn't have the retrobrighting done in time now that the sun's gone in. Also, I'd switched to the immersion method for the keys because it's easier in a smaller container, and that's worked quite well. I got the other keys, I put them in their own, as you saw, immersion retrobrighting method, and they're almost there. They need another day in the sun, I think, just to bring them up to the other ones. So that's going well. And the actual motherboard repair is now progressing. I've started actually putting bits back onto it now, but I will show you that in the next video. So thanks for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and look forward to watching the next one. Make sure you've liked and subscribed and all that sort of thing. Otherwise you might miss it. You probably won't, because YouTube will serve these things up if you watched another one. So do you. I have a free Patreon tier, and it's not just one that you can sign up and sit there and do nothing. I put a reasonable amount of content on there. I put update videos, and I make updates to the free tier as well as all the other tiers. But the paid tiers get things like early access, other exclusive content, and access to an exclusive Discord channel as well for Patreon members. So yeah, go and check out that if you feel like seeing some more of me. That doesn't seem like a very good sell. Anyway, see you in the next one. God, I should do this for a living.